Hello everyone, my name is Heather and welcome to the channel Bookables. Today I'm here to share with you all of the books I read in the month of April. So April was another good reading month, not as good as March. I think, it was almost there. In March I read 9 books, in April I read 8 books, so I think I'm averaging anywhere from like 7 to 10, probably not 10, what am I thinking? No, 7 to 9 is my average. We're just gonna call it what it is. So I read 8 books and I have 2 5-stars out of this month, so I'm not mad in the slightest. Last month I kind of switched up how I did it, but this month I'm just going to go back to what I usually do. I'm going to start with my least favorite book I read for the month of April, working up to my favorite read for the month of April. And I read some really good ones, and I read some not so good ones. First up is, I literally just finished the Inmate by Frieda McFadden. I read this because she is becoming very popular on TikTok, and ever since I did like the is TikTok's books worth the hype and stuff like that, I've been somewhat drawn to them just to see if they are really, and most of them aren't. But anyway, her book, not this one in particular, but I want to say her other book, The Maid, has been getting a ton of hype. And then I read the synopsis of The Inmate, and I'm like, this sounds really cool. So it's all about this character named Brooke, who is a nurse practitioner, and she gets a job at Rikers, is it Rikers? Penitentiary, a big time prison up in New York, and she's like the nurse practitioner there. Only problem is, her ex-boyfriend, her first love of her life, is an inmate there, and he's there for life, and he's there because she put him there. And so I'm just like, what? That sounds interesting. And yeah, it wasn't my favorite. I gave it a 3 out of 5, if that. Honestly, maybe 2.5. There was a lot of things I didn't enjoy about this book. Let me go over the one good thing. I like, it was a fast read, I'll say that. I could see that she probably writes a lot of popcorn thrillers where you don't need to read too much into them, just have a thrilling good time. If that's your jam, I would recommend it. But as far as like writing goes, it wasn't very well written in my opinion. It wasn't very thrilling a ton. I could see where the twists and turns were gonna go. It went very, very fast paced, but even still, I got kind of bored with it. I don't know. I didn't love it. Like, and also, I kept thinking of the fact of like, did anybody in this prison when they were hiring somebody do a check of like, sort of, Brooke didn't do anything wrong because she almost got killed, so many years ago, and the guy that almost killed her is in prison, but they wouldn't put that two together. Like, they wouldn't look at her database and be like, oh, she was kind of involved with this big crime 10 years ago and all the inmates here, so maybe that wouldn't be a good idea to hire her. Did nobody think about that? I mean, was there no sort of background check or any sort of in-depth check? Because there was another person working there that went to high school. I'm like, what? It makes no sense at all. So these are type of books I think with hers, I can't say this for sure. I've read one book by her that you're going to have to suspend your disbelief and just kind of go for the ride. But I mean, will I read more books from her? Probably, because it was a very, very fast-paced thriller. I read it in like 2 days, which is really fast for me. So I gave it like a 2.5 out of 3. It wasn't like straight up horrible, but I didn't love the writing style, and I didn't love the whole plot twist because I think they were very, very obvious. But I don't know. Moving on to another 3-star that's also a thriller. Maybe I'm just very harsh on thrillers. I don't want to be. The Soulmate by Sally Hepworth. This is labeled as a thriller, but I don't really think it is one. I would say it's like a woman's fiction with a dash of mystery. Like, if I could compare this to another novel, it'd be like kind of Big Little Lies by Liam Moriarty, where you have a big kind of mystery, but that's not really the forefront of the whole story. It's more about the relationships in the book, and this one is just that. So this one follows a character named Pippa, and she is married to a guy named Gabe. They have daughters, and it's great. They live in this house that like kind of overlooks the ocean, and it's like right near a cliff, and people go there to and so Gabe is always, talking them down literally from the ledge and helping him and has become a town hero. But then one night, I shall say, a woman comes out there and she actually ends up going forth with the thing, and a kind of big investigation goes forth, and Pippa starts thinking, does she really know Gabe? This is more of a dissection of a marriage, of whether or not you really know the person you're married to. Are they who they say they are? Do you guys have a good relationship, or are you just putting on a facade for the whole world to see? I gave it a 3 out of 5. It was okay. Again, it was a very fast read, I'll say that. It wasn't necessarily very thrilling or anything like that. I'd say if you want like a big dissection to marriage, check it out, but it wasn't like something that I'm going to reach for again and again. So there's that. Then we have Take the Lead by Alexis Dario. This is my third book by this author, and I thought this was a new book. No, it's just a new cover. So this was actually her first book, and this one came out, I want to say like 3 or 4 years ago, and they just got a new cover. And it's a good book, but it's not my jam. And the reason for that, if you love Dancing with the Stars, this is the book for you. If you just love like reality shows, especially reality competitive dancing shows, you'll love this one. So this one follows 2 characters. We follow, I forget their names, Gina, and we also follow, so it's all about Gina, and she's the professional dancer in this book. And what happens in the shows like this is she gets paired up with a reality star, and she gets paired up with Bear Grylls. I mean, Stone. You get what I'm saying. And he's from Alaska. He's got like kind of a wilderness TLC show going on with his family. And basically it's all about their progress to win the mirror ball. I mean, whatever it is, their trophy, you know, to make the finals. And of course they get into a relationship and things like that. It was okay. It wasn't my favorite Alexis Dario book. I thought it was decent. I could definitely tell it was her debut novel, which no shame in that, but I just didn't love it. I didn't love the whole reality competitive dancing. There was a time when I was really into Dancing with the Stars, but that was many moons ago. Now I don't really watch it, nor do I care to even care who's in it and things like that. But I mean, it was okay. I give it a 3 out of 5. Again, if you like Dancing with the Stars, I would highly recommend it because I think it did really good adaptation to like book, if you will. But it was, again, I'm just gonna keep saying it. It was okay. It wasn't the worst book I read by far, but it just wasn't my favorite of hers. Then we have another thriller, The Last Word by Taylor Adams. I'm not gonna talk about this one and 2 other ones a lot because I did a reading vlog on them, and then I also did a whole book review on them, so I don't want to keep rehashing it. This was a very anticipated read for me because the plot alone sounded amazing. It's about a character named Emma who is house sitting, and at the beginning of the book she finishes this horror novel that was recommended to her, and she hates it. Like, she's like, this is the worst book I've ever read. And you know, when you finish a book on Kindle, they're like, do you want to review this on Amazon? She's like, yes I do. And so she reviews it, and she does not tag the author. I've been saying it a lot of time. She tags the author. Don't ever tag authors and 1-star reviews. I still stand by that. Do not do that. But she did not even tag the author. She just put her review out there. It just so happens that she was the only review to put it. So she's like writing a scathing review. The author comments back and they're like, hey, you know, I've worked really hard on this. Like, can you take this down? And she's like, you know what? Like, I appreciate you saying that. I understand that you worked really hard on it, but no, like, this is a public forum. Everyone can have opinions. I'm stating my opinion on your book, and it's okay. And they start getting into a huge kind of online fight, and it ends with the author saying, take this down now. It's your last warning. And she just says, like, okay. And I'm like, oh, no. And from there, creepy stuff starts happening, and you know, maybe the author's coming after her. I mean, it sounds so interesting, doesn't it? And it was okay. I've learned Taylor Adams really writes a lot of his books that take place in one night. And for me, I am not the type of person that enjoys that. I like to have elongated story over several days, weeks, months, years, whatever you want to call it. If it takes place on one night, I do not jive well with it. There's been a couple I've liked, but for the majority of the time, I'm not the biggest fan of it. So I didn't love this one for that matter. That was one part. The other part was I just didn't love the ending of how it was. I will say Taylor Adams writes really well that it could be translated to a movie or show. I say that, and I still have not seen the No Exit show, so maybe listen to me, maybe not. I don't know. But either way, this would translate great to a movie. Like, this would be a great thriller movie. Like, I might check it out if I wasn't so scared. But there was parts in this book that I was like, this would just be such a good movie. So I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. In retrospect, looking at this and the other thrillers I read this month, it's actually my favorite, probably, thriller. But there were some parts I didn't enjoy about it, but I mean, the overall plot of an author like kind of coming after a reviewer is very scary, especially, you know, saying that as a reviewer. Taylor Adams, please don't come after me. But it was okay. It just wasn't quite up to my expectations. So I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. I mean, I would check it out. It was interesting. I'll give you that. And the other thriller I read that's also getting a 3.5 out of 5 is The Only Survivors by Megan Miranda. This is my second Megan Miranda book, and her books so far are just kind of okay to me. It's about a girl named Cassidy who, like, 10 years ago, she was in this really bad kind of accident with, like, a bus full of kids from her school. They, like, kind of got into a road accident. They fell down the river, and only like 6 of them survived. It was very brutal. And so every year since then, they kind of all meet up together at this house at the Outer Banks, which is in North Carolina, which I have gone to many, many times in my life. Or probably go there this summer. And they kind of just like spend the week of the anniversary there every single year together. This year's a little different because one from the group has actually passed away, and Cassidy was going to cut off ties, but she decides to go there and investigate what happened to this. And of course, she's learning that maybe people are talking about what really happened, like near the river 10 years ago. And it was okay. It was just kind of boring. Like when the whole secrets and twists came out, I wasn't very shocked by them. They weren't overly thrilling in that regard. Am I becoming desensitized? I don't know. That frightens me. But I don't know, they just were kind of okay. All the characters in this book were kind of unlikable because they were all just doing like not the best things. And the reasons for these secrets I don't think were really justified. There was one twist I really did like, I'll tell you that. But overall, it was just kind of okay. It wasn't like the worst thriller I ever read. It wasn't the best. It was just kind of a middle of the road one for me. So I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. That's just me. Now, moving on to 3 books that I absolutely adored. By Abby Jimenez, yours truly. This is her newest release. I enjoy all of her books, and this one was a great one. Please forgive me as the stickers. I hate when they put stickers on covers, then it comes... Anyway, this is kind of a spin-off of her last book that came out last year, Part of Your World. It follows a character from that book. This one follows Brianna, who is an ER doctor, and she is not happy with her life. She is going through a really bitter divorce because her husband cheated on her with a friend, and so she's got that going on. Her brother is not doing well. He's on renal failure. He needs a new kidney. He's on dialysis, and it's just not looking good. And now a new doctor is coming in, and he might be kind of a contender for her to be the chief of the ER. And so she's like, I hate this guy. They call him Dr. Death, and his name's Jacob. And of course, they start to talk, and they start to write letters back and forth, which is just so cute. And it turns out, you know, he needs some help. You know, he needs somebody to be his fake date because of his situation with his family. And he also decides, hey, I'm going to give your brother a kidney because my mother had a kidney transplant. I always wanted to repay it forward, and this is the great thing to do. So we have a lot going on in this book. We have secret love letters kind of going on, or just getting to know yous. We have a fake relationship going on. We have him giving her brother a kidney, but trying to keep it a secret. We have lots of past trauma talked about in this book. Abby Jimenez does an amazing job with having a really romantic book, but also a lot of in-depthness to it. Is that a word, in-depth? But just kind of really intense stuff that is real life. And like I said, both Brianna and Jacob had a lot of past trauma. Brianna has a hard time trusting anybody because of what happened in her previous relationship, what happened with her father. Jacob has a lot of social anxiety. He also has a lot of past trauma from his past relationship. So just great representation on all fronts. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. I loved it. The romance, I mean, the only problem I have, I say, is the miscommunication, but I feel like that's a trope in every single romance book, is there's always some sort of miscommunication at the end where you're like, just talk and you can get over it. And it's the same thing with this one, but I loved it. I really enjoyed it. Would highly recommend. And the last 2 books, I gave both 5-star to. One completely shocked me, and that is In a Jam by Kate Caterbury. I forget. I am so sorry. I'm actually just ordering this book physically because I loved it so much. It's an indie romance that I've seen here and there on BookTube and Book Talk, and I thought, hey, why not? Because I have Kindle Unlimited, and I freaking loved it. It's my first 5-star of like a TikTok book I've read. And it's one of the ones I don't hear about too much. So this book is a long one, I will say, which is not the best thing, but I just fell in love with the character so much. We have a character named Shay, and at the beginning of the book, she is about to get married, and her groom's like, no, I'm just going to not show up to this wedding. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. And so she is just down on her luck. And then she learns that her kind of grandma, kind of like step-grandma somewhere along the lines, died, or no, left her in her will, like her tulip farm called Twin Tulips. And she's like, and in the will, it says she has a year that she could live there, but after that year, if she wants to keep that farm, she has to be married. And I'm like, I don't know how many books can do this, where they like, you have to have in the will, like either be married or be engaged or have a fake engagement. I'm like, is this legally true? Like, how? Anyway, it makes for a good book. So she moves back to where she was at for her high school years to inherit Twin Tulip, and there she runs into Noah, who is a friend she had in high school, and he's kind of has the neighboring farm, and he is raising his niece, Jenny, as like kind of his daughter because his sister is in prison and she is 5 years old. And basically what happens is Noah's like, hey, you know, I could use the land on Twin Tulip a lot and I will be married to you. Why not? It's just gonna be on paper. And of course, you know, it's not. It's got the mutual pining thing. It's steamy. It is just amazing. I love the relationship between them. It was just so, I felt like it flowed so well. It kind of went at a good pace. The steam was top tier. I loved Jenny. I loved watching Shay be a teacher because she was a teacher, and it was just the small town, the farm vibes. Like, I ate this junk up. I never thought I would give it a 5 out of 5, but here we are. I loved it. So yeah, I highly recommend it in case you want like a small town romance read with steam in it, with like some like kind of fake marriage, but also like mutual pining, because it's so clearly obvious that Noah's been in love with Shay since high school. Check out this book. You won't be disappointed. I freaking loved it. I really did. Like, if you wanted to make it a series, wouldn't be mad at all. And the last book I have to talk about, of course, is my favorite, Emily Henry's Happy Place. I have given all of Emily Henry's adult romances a 5 out of 5. This one might be my favorite. I loved it. So this one follows Harriet, who is going back to her like college best friends. Like, they go on this trip every year near Maine to go to Lobster Fest. And you know, this year's different because Harriet has been engaged to Wynn for a long time. They have this big kind of friend group and nothing's ever touched it. But Harriet and Wynn have been broken up for a long time now, and none of her best friends know it. So she's like, I'm gonna break into the news to them on this trip. She goes to this trip, and surprise, surprise, Wynn's there, and surprise, surprise, it's going to be their last time ever at this house for this trip. And another surprise is Sabrina, one of the really good friends that's in this group, and another friend, Parth, are getting married that weekend because it's their last trip. So Harriet and Wynn are like, crap, we cannot tell anybody that we're broken up. We don't want to mess up the vibes. And it goes on from there. Is their week in this vacation, Harriet and Wynn having to pretend that they're still in love with each other. Spoiler warning, it's not hard to pretend. And then also it talks a lot about friendship. Like, I go really into it in my review about how friendship, and especially lifelong friendship, and how sometimes it ebbs and flows as you get older, because all these characters are in their 30s and they're getting established with their life. And I felt so seen in this when it comes to like that retrospect with friendship and kind of moving on with your life, but also like having a fear of letting that friendship go, or not letting it go, but just kind of letting it simmer instead of being a full boil on all the time. I guess that's a good analogy. I don't know. The romance in this was amazing. I loved it. Obviously, it's a second chance romance. I could not get enough of it. I love Emily Henry's books. Like, I love her adult romance books. This one, like, again, I felt so many of the characters in so many different ways. There was a character in this that was kind of the organizer of the group that was always trying to pull them together. I felt that. Harriet was also a people pleaser. Couldn't say no. Felt that. Like, I loved it. 5 out of 5. Highly recommend. So there you have my thoughts and opinions on all of the 8 books I read in the month of April. So far, really good. Like, I'm happy with my reading progress this year, and I hope to continue on with this like 7 to 9 books reading every month, and I think that'll be amazing. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video.